So, welcome to another episode of the Fight View 360 Australian Boxing Podcast, and I'm gonna jump right into things. I've been looking at the rankings here as I've been preparing for this video for Opetaia, the IBF and Ring Magazine Cruiserweight Champion of the World. He, for those who don't know, especially here in the United States, he's going to be fighting. What's that? The 8th, right, Big J?
Yep.
Yeah. That's this weekend on the 8th against, let's see, number 14 ranked Claudio Sequoia. I forgot how they pronounced it yesterday on the when they were building it up. I mean, the day before on the zone. So, if you look at the cruiserweight division, as you can see, ain't nothing there. You got 40-year-old Mike Perez, 40-plus-year-old Jean Pascal, Ursuline Goulamarian. You know, he's got some controversy for how long he stayed out of the ring or stayed inactive. And he had that dreadful fight against Gilberto Ramirez. You got Ryan Rozecki. He is the mandatory for Badu Jack, who beat Noel McCallion on the undercard of Canelo versus William Skoll, that dreadful card. And you got Chris Billum Smith, who is now number one ranked by the WBO again for the mandatory to be to possibly fight the mandatory Gilberto Ramirez, who has the WBO and the WBA. But listen to this. Gilberto Ramirez is fighting his WBA mandatory Junior Doricos. That's going to be on June the 28th, 28 days from now. It is June the 1st, right now in 2025. But there's ever growing, and listen to this bullshit, there's ever growing rumors and chatter that Gilberto Ramirez and Jake Paul are in talks.
Fuck not.
And if Jake Paul goes on to beat Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., now pay attention to this. Watch the rankings by either the WBA, the WBO may not do it. The WBO has some integrity, but the WBA, look for their next rankings update sometime, because it's the beginning of the month, sometime in the next couple of weeks. I used to remember when they would come out. I believe it's mid-month, like 11th or 12th or something like that. But I'm going to be paying attention. If Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. pops up in the top 15 of the WBA rankings, and for those who don't know, when you're ranked top 15, you're eligible for a title shot. After Dorticos, if Ramirez wins, he will not have a mandatory, and he'll be able to have a voluntary. And if Jake Paul on June the 28th, the main event of that card, by the way, beats Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., Gilberto Ramirez and Jake Paul are likely going to be fighting for a title. And some other bullshit news regarding the bullshit with boxing, before we move on, Jake Paul was also in talks to fight Tank Davis. He was actually at Davis versus Lamont Roach in Tank Davis's locker room. Just the madness, you know, mind you, I've met Tank Davis, and you don't even have to meet him. Look at him. The guy is 5'4". He's listed at 5'5", but he's a tiny dude. Jake Paul is 6'1". About 6 foot, 6'1". Like just shenanigans. But first, Big J, what do you think about that Opetaia news? Before we talk about Sequoia and how the fight may go, I gotta be honest, I'm not interested in the fight. But because it doesn't mean anything. But what are your thoughts?
Well,
I mean the rankings, first of all, like how the rankings play out.
Well, the rankings, the IBF has been rather weird over the last, say, two and a half years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the IBF has really dicked Jai around because they stripped him for absolutely no reason.
Yeah.
And then the next fight, they put him up in a title shot against Brutus again. I mean, like, what was the fucking point of stripping him?
Brutus was bitching and complaining, but still, at the end of the day, IBF they had the last word.
Yeah, but I mean, this is just another showcase fight for Jai to build his reputation, to build his numbers. I mean, this is, he's fighting the lowest level competition he can lay his hands on to keep the belt, which, yeah, fine, I don't really have a problem with that. But the problem is, as we've said many, many times before, this cruiserweight division is such a shit division.
It is.
Is that you have to do what you have to do to, keep busy and keep active. So, Zurdo Ramirez should take care of this WBA challenger without too many dramas. And then, of course, that leaves it open for the Jai unification. But if Jake Paul, who will most likely smack Julio Chavez Jr. or whatever he's bloody.
I hope Chavez Jr. can be the hero we need, but he's always been a fuck up. Man, breaks my heart all the time.
Chavez Jr., Jake Paul will smack the shit out of him and become a legit challenger for bloody Ramirez. I mean, how much money would Ramirez make fighting Jake Paul?
Exactly, and that's why he won't turn it down.
$10 million?
Yeah, he won't.
I hope the fight happens so Ramirez will smack the absolute shit out of Jake Paul.
Yeah, I would like that too, but I don't want him to get there. I'm sorry, and he hasn't done anything to get there. Remember, Chavez Jr. lost to Anderson Silva. And Jake Paul goes on the beat like it's shenanigans. Oh, and by the way, before I forget, the only fights that Badu Jack can take is either Ramirez or Opetaia, or he has to fight Ryan Rozecki. And Ryan Rozecki, let me tell you, he's all right, but put it this way, I think I would pick him to beat Badu Jack. But as far as Opetaia is concerned, I don't want to say like he's becoming kind of a boogeyman, but it's a weak division, and none of these guys really want to fight him. And as I'm looking at the rankings of the IBF top 15, it's horrendous. Michael Cieslak, number 3. By the way, it looks like Opetaia's already got a mandatory. Did you see that? Number 1 ranked guy by the IBF, and the IBF is one of the only organizations, they're the only organization that if you're ranked number 1, that usually means you're the mandatory. So his mandatory is a guy by the name of Hussein Sinkara from Germany, 40-year-old guy whose last fight was a first round knockout of an 8 round. Oh my gosh, his next mandatory is shit, man.
Sinkara was the first guy he was supposed to fight in bloody January.
That is, but either ill, so that makes it even worse.
Sinkara was the guy that he was supposed to fight 6 months ago, but then he got hurt, and David Nika jumped in, remember?
Yeah, so now he has to either fight him or get a unit. So he has the possibility of having 2 straight shit fights. Because if he don't get a unification, he's got to fight the Sinkara guy, lose his belt.
Well, I hope Badu Jack has unification before, Jai should fight, Jai will fight old mate next week. And then he should fight Badu Jack while the opportunity's there, because he's not going to get Ramirez. Ramirez is too busy going to be mucking around with Jake Paul.
Yeah.
So get the WBC belt off Badu Jack. Let Ramirez kick the living piss out of Jake Paul, and then go for undisputed. Simple.
Yeah, that's the only way to go. But the idea, but now it's up to Badu Jack. Have you heard anything that they possibly talking anything? I know they've circled each other in Saudi Arabia, but you would think it would be in Badu Jack's best interest as well, because it's like, who would he make more money fighting? Ryan Rozecki? I don't think so. So you might as well go for Jai Opetaia.
Exactly. Now this is Jai's what? How many fights is that in Australia? At least 3, because Breedis number 1, and David Nika, this is number 3. So, if Jai's starting to build a fan base here in Australia, so it's easy to have it in Australia and have it in front of 15,000, 20,000.
Yeah, I was going to ask you. Do you think? I was asking you. Do you think a unification between him and Badu Jack could possibly do some numbers over there?
Fuck yeah, because it's the novelty of the thing, because Australia, we haven't had a big fight for a few years.
Yeah. So,
we had obviously we had not bloody Lomachenko George last year in Perth, which had 14,000 people at it.
In the first Haney fight, with Cambosos.
Yeah, the first Haney fight. So if we were to have another big fight like that, you could get at least 10,000, 15,000 people to rock up to that sort of fight. Easy. Hopefully even more. I mean, Jai won't fight again until September, October, by then the footy season will be over because there's no way in hell the Titans, which is the Gold Coast NRL team, they ain't going to make the fucking finals. Or even so have it after the grand final and get 20,000 people at the footy stadium.
Yeah, but it's also, it's also the fact that, boxing politics. We've talked about, and you being over there, this would be an Eddie Hearn promoted event. So, God knows how it would go. Eddie Hearn being a British man and all, no real footprint in Australian boxing. Then there's the possibility of the Saudis saying, you know what? No, we want this fight in Saudi Arabia. And then another unfortunate possibility is that, well, Badu Jack makes it hard and say, no, I'm not going to your home turf. I'm 41 years old. Like, we got to find neutral ground. So, the possibility of this fight being in Australia, I'm not too confident.
No, neither am I.
Not too, especially with the Saudi factor. But, I guess we're going to find out in the next, because the IBF, they have us in car rank number 1. And we know how they get, especially with the reputation they have with Jai. After this fight, of course, I'm expecting him to beat Sequoia and knock him out, possibly knock him out. But the IBF is going to go ahead and order that fight. So, and I'm guessing that's probably going to be more so to get the talks going for, a unification somewhere because, the IBF know they'll get a bigger piece of the sanctioning fee for the bigger fight as well.
Exactly. So, but at the end of the day, they're all going to chase the bigger. They're all going to chase the bigger pie.
Yeah.
So,
how long do you think Jai got? In the cruiserweight division? Because as I'm looking, there's nothing there unless Badu Jack or who would be 40 plus, also year-old, injury prone, Better BF moving up. But besides that, and I don't think he's ready for heavyweight yet.
No. People keep saying, John needs to move up.
It's not the time yet. Yeah, it's not time.
Why? I mean...
and he's only 29, and in this day and age, he can try to ride out at the cruiserweight for another 3 years if he want to and move up to heavyweight, because at the end of the day, our heavyweights are kind of older in this generation.
Exactly.
So he would be, 33 years old would be a prime time. Or I'm not saying it should be 32, 33, but I'm saying he's got some time there. But when it comes to significant fights, when you look, it's such a big jump between, let's say, for example, a lot of middleweights, move up to 168 move up to 175. But really, those 175 guys, that's a difficult jump to make. And if it's not a guy, like I'm looking at the 175-pound division right now. You got possibly, maybe David Benavidez. All right, cool, big dude, And I'm talking about potential fights if Jai says, you know what, I'm going to become undisputed and I'm going to stay here, and he wants to stay here to see how the heavyweight division plays out as the older guard is coming out. And the next fight we're going to talk about next, how guys like Fabio, Wardley, and Justis Huni are in that new class. So you got Dimitri Bivol, he would be on the smaller end of a cruiserweight, but I think he can compete at cruiserweight. Better BF, he can compete at cruiserweight. He's got the power at least to go up there. Colin Smith is a big dude. He's 6'3". He can go up to cruiserweight. Anthony Yard, but here's the thing. A lot of those guys, they're at the end of their careers as well. So they may not even say, what's the point of going up 25 pounds? So I don't know. The future seems pretty bleak, man, unless he's able to, go undisputed. And, he's got to start, he's got to, they got to start doing better jobs matching him. Because these last several opponents is just, it's not doing nothing. It's not moving no numbers.
And it's padding his record because just because he's beaten these guys easily, that doesn't mean... Because the competition is so low, you can't stay an A-grade fighter if your competition's constantly C and D-grade fighters. Yeah. You actually drop down a couple of pegs yourself because, you're beating these guys easy, but these guys are easy beats.
Yeah, remember, he was worldwide trending after the first Breeders fight, and we was talking about how unfortunate it was that he got his jaw broken in both places. He couldn't really ride the wave.
Yeah, exactly. So, his jets were cool before he even... the fire was put out before it even got started.
Yeah. So, well, closing thoughts?
I'm interested to see. I think Jai should stay at cruiserweight because I think the move to heavyweight heavyweight division is far too stacked. There's too many. There's too many guys. There's too many. There's too many factors and there's too many things going on. So, I mean, unless he gets a shot at Usyk, right, what would be the point of moving up? I mean, the only point would be from moving up would be to go straight into a title shot.
Yeah, you're right. I think he should let it thin out a little bit over the next few years to see how things play out, because a lot of these guys are not going to be around. And also, the Saudis own the heavyweight division, and they're making all those guys fight each other. So at least we got that going on. So they're pretty much eliminating each other. All right.
Pretty much.
Well, we're going to be here. I'm going to be here on, what's that? That's going to be Sunday morning my time, right? What is that? What is this? Let me see.
It'll be Saturday night prime time for you lot.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. Cool. So we're going to be watching that. Me and Big J are going to be doing a post-fight video. And now on to the next topic, another fight that's happening this weekend, which I'm actually looking forward to. This is going to be Saturday on the Zone, June the 7th here in the States, and I'm pretty sure over in Australia, you guys are going to be able to watch it on the Zone as well. Fabio Wardley's taking on Justis Huni. Justis Huni, fringe. Really, he just left the prospect tag about a few fights ago, and now he's been a fringe contender because he's been in and out of the sanctioning bodies, but in reality, he's on the lower end, despite how skilled he is. But there's issues. We're going to talk about it. 12-0 with 7 KOs, 26-0 from Australia. And Fabio Wardley 18-0-1 with 17 KOs. That only one was against Frazer Clark, who he brutally knocked out in the very first round of their next fight, which was his next fight back in October of last year. Fabio Wardley is, as I was talking about when we was talking about Opetaia, he's kind of in that new blood of the heavyweights, more of, even though he's 30, but remember, as I said previously, in the heavyweight division, 30 is considered a baby in the heavyweight division in this era that we're in. So, and for example, Usyk is almost 40 years old. I believe he's 38, if not 37, but or around that age. So when you look at what Fabio Wardley is right now, this is going to be for the WBA interim title. It was supposed to be Gerald Big Baby Miller. Gerald Big Baby Miller pulled out a few weeks ago for the reason still haven't been disclosed. But for those who don't know, he was in a bitter battle with his former promoter, Dimitri Salita. So something is telling me in my gut, especially if there's no injury involved, that it's something to do with that. His new manager is now, a handler is Spencer Brown, who's really good. Got guys like Tyson Fury and everything. So, he withdrew from the fight under shady circumstances. The problem I have with Justis Huni is Fabio Wardley, as you can see by his resume, is a cracker. 18-0, 17 KOs. I've seen it. Let me see. When did I start coming in covering Justis Huni? I came in around I came in at 2021. That was that Dylan White card, I believe, where Dylan White got knocked up. Was that when he got knocked up? Let me check. Yeah, I came in around that time. Well, anyway, I've been watching all of these fights, and the skill that's there, but also for him, the Frazer Clark fight was what they call in the UK a domestic level. The UK, they often have a how can I say, a template of what they're fighters. You get to the Commonwealth, you get the British boxing border control belt, and then that's supposed to be you going up to world level. So you've seen plenty times throughout history where you had guys like, I don't know, Billy Joe Saunders, Chris Eubank Jr. They have a system there where you got to fight the rival in your division before you go up. Before you go to like the world level. Fights like Rocky Fielding and Colin Smith, Billy Joe Saunders, and Chris Eubank Jr. And that was the same thing with Frazer Clark. That was like, all right, that's your rival. Before you go, onto the world class, you got to beat the rival in your division, in your country. And now he's going to be fighting Justis Huni, but even though, as I can say, looking at, the resume of Fabio Wardley, don't get me wrong, it's nice for the fringe contender, prospect fringe contender that he was, and now he's a contender with wins over Nathan Gorman, David Adelaide, 2 over Frazer Clark. Those were his rivals. So he eliminated his rivals on a domestic level, all of them. But I just don't really see yet if I can see him as being a guy to go up to beat, I don't know, Daniel Dubois, Usyk, Joseph Parker, I don't know Anthony Joshua. I'm gonna leave him out right now. There's a big question mark around him. Guys like Moses Atama. I'm not, and I'm rating Moses Atama kind of high, but what I'm saying is I'm kind of looking at Wardley of being on that same level as well. It's a lot of question marks. But Big J, before I let me stop rambling on. What do you think about the Huni Wardley fight? I'm concerned about Huni's power. That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, well, we've said this before that Justis Huni is a volume puncher, pressure fighter, great footwork, has the hands and then the footwork speed of a lightweight, but also has the power of one too.
Yeah.
And I've spoken to many of my Australian mates, constituents that there's a lot of people out there that aren't worried about the fact that Justis has no power because he's so his boxing IQ is high and he's so fast and he's a volume puncher. He's one of those guys that will wear you down over time rather than just knock you out. But having said that, my concern is if Wardley lands one on him and hits him hard, Justis ain't getting back up because he's been rocked twice by two blown up cruiserweights.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always said the second he gets in there with a heavyweight that can hit, I think he's going to get his lights turned off. So,
yeah.
And that's the thing. I mean, how much punch resistance does he have? Because he's certainly got the better skill set and ring IQ over Fabio Wardley. But if Wardley gets close enough to him and hits him one, if he gets into a dogfight with Wardley will knock him out.
Yeah.
So he needs to use his foot. He needs to use his ring IQ, his hand speed, and his footwork to stay away from him and win a points decision or wear him down over the course of the 12 rounds. So,
and one thing we can say about Huni is he has several 10-round where he went actually the distance on his resume to where before that draw against Fraser Clark, Fabio Wardley never went past 6 rounds. And that was very early in his career. So, he has one 12-round fight to where Huni has, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, even though against lower level competition like Paul Gallen, Joseph Goodall, what's the guy named Kiki Toy Lutile or, Andrew Tabiti, so we know he can go the distance, but, what fight was it where he seemed to start slowing down and leaning on the ropes in the second half of the fight? I don't remember. Was that Lorena fight?
Yeah, it definitely was the Lorena fight. He was in trouble in that fight. And the other blown up cruiserweight that he fought, he didn't look too flash in that fight either.
Yeah, so if he doesn't have the power to keep Fabio Wardley, who is, Fabio Wardley's got some accuracy with him. He places his punches very well. And you saying you're having some issues some concerns if Huni will be able to take those shots. I as I'm looking at it, Huni would have to fight and box the best fight of his life. The type of fight where he's using the jab and it's like, people are going to be, how after a fighter gets an upset or comes out of nowhere and gets a win, everybody say, oh, he looks like the next, Sugar Ray Leonard or whatever, some old type of bullshit. Like he needs to have one of those type of nights where he's trending to where people start saying dumb shit on social media. He's got to look phenomenal because I'm trying to find a way, can he neutralize Fabio Wardley and keep Fabio Wardley off of him? And the only way he can do that, he's got to have a special night. And he is a late step in, so he hasn't had even a full camp for this.
I agree. So he was training for someone else.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he needed to step in.
Yeah, well, we're going to be here covering that card. That's also going to be on the Zone. So you have 2 significant Australian boxing events on the Zone. Let's see here. What else? Oh, Liam Paro's returning. What's going on with him?
He'll be on a Cairns show on, I think, June 25th. Is that correct?
With, June 25th.
Liam Wilson will be on the undercard. Now, that was actually supposed to be 2 weeks prior, but they pushed it back 2 weeks. So...
Well, I didn't get a chance to see the press conference or read any press releases. Like, what's supposed to be his plan? I'm guessing, main event's going to keep doing. Wait, is this fight's pay-per-view, right?
Yes.
So
No,
I'm
actually,
guessing.
no, it's free to air.
Oh,
It's free to
okay.
air, believe it or not.
Okay.
So
That's shocking.
They put Sam Goodman on pay-per-view for $50, but Liam Paro and Liam Wilson is on. It's not free to air, but it's part of your
Your cable package. Yeah.
subscription.
So I'm guessing this is one of those free cards that they probably owed a part of their deal. Kind of like PBC did last night with the Caleb Plant, Jamal Charlo. Amazon Prime events for PBC are usually pay-per-view, but every now and then they'll give us one of those type of cards. I'm guessing this possibly is one of those deals where they say, you know what, you got to give us something to put on free to air, So, but let me see who this Navarro guy is because he looks familiar. He's fighting a Jonathan Navarro, 18-1 with 9 KOs. He's an American. Okay. I don't see anybody on his resume that I know of, but he's fought a lot of times out of Indio, California. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's fought on some Golden Boy cards because they fight a lot out of that area, but he's not a Golden Boy fighter. So, all right, I'm guessing, in a perfect world, if he wins, and Kambosos wins, depending on if Matchroom and No Limit were able to come together, I don't know. It's a lot of political mumbo jumbo there. But ideally, that would be the fight to make, right? Like, that would be the road to try to go for Liam Paro and Kambosos, right?
No, absolutely, because Kambosos was saying I think he was saying the same thing. That if he wins, he'll give Paro the shot and have a Aussie on Aussie world title fight, which hasn't happened since for the men, it hasn't happened since Mundy and Gill 2 back in 2013. So that's well over 12 years ago.
So we did a full in-depth video, just a few videos before this I released, probably like last week or so, a couple of weeks ago actually, on Richardson Hitchens and George Kambosos. That fight's going to be coming up in a couple of weeks. I'm not looking forward to it, but it is what it is because it has some political implications. So for example, Richardson Hitchens is the IBF champion. Subriel Matias, he's fighting, I forgot who. But Subriel Matias is the IBF mandatory currently. Kambosos is ranked number 3. Liam Paro is ranked number 4. Let me see where else is Paro ranked. Paro is not ranked by the WBA. He is ranked number 7 by the WBC. And he's ranked number 4 by the WBO. So, he's got some routes to take, but I don't understand on, the fact that he lost that one fight against Hitchens. Like, what was going on to the point where Matchroom just let him go? Remember, Matchroom lost him and Subriel Matias. I wonder what happened there.
Well, we know what the story was from Subriel Matias, but Liam, it didn't make any sense. It just seemed like he was a belt warmer for
and he just got discarded. Yeah. I wonder maybe he wanted to go home. I don't know. It's a bit of a fishy situation there, but we're going to be covering that fight as well. I'm guessing I'm probably going to have to find alternative means to watch that fight since it's not going to be broadcast on the Zone. But that's going to be on June the 25th. And Liam Wilson, quick thoughts on him.
I think Liam Wilson's just going to be one of those guys who will make it, bridesmaid, never the bride. He'll make it to a title shot, but he'll never win.
Mm.
And considering the fact that he's already had 2 title shots,
yeah,
I don't. I've never been really big on him anyway because I remember that first loss that he had.
Yeah, I remember that.
Against a Filipino bloke. I saw that loss coming 3 fights before it happened.
Mm-hmm.
His defense was so poor. So. Yeah, I mean, Liam Wilson just seems like he's
Joe
just...
Norne.
Sorry?
The fighter, Joe Norne.
Yeah, he just seems like he's just cannon fodder for, world title fighters. So I don't see anything in him. He's one of those fighters where he's too big for 135, but he's too small for lightweight, if that makes any sense.
Yes, it does.
So... He's like,
well,
yeah, so I mean,
he's ranked he's ranked number 6 by the IBF at 130. So, and the champion is Eduardo Nunez, the fighter he's facing. Let's see, what's his name? Ertan Osmar Jimenez, he's not. I don't see him ranked. Oh yes, he is. He's ranked by the WBO at number 14. So to his credit, he is fighting a ranked fighter, but I'm wondering, if he's going to try to go the IBF route or the WBO route because he's ranked by both of those sanctioning bodies, and he's fighting a fighter who's ranked by only the WBO. So something's going on there. But yeah, I agree with you. A bridesmaid, another bride. I'd be surprised. I hate to say it, but if he makes it back off domestic level again, he's at that point right now, in a fighter's career where I think like, maybe that was it, bro. But the guy he's fighting only has 4 KOs, so it's a safe fight right there. He better not get knocked out by him. 22-1 with 4 KOs is Jimenez's record, and he's from Argentina.
And he's fought. I think this is the second or third Argentinian bloke he's fought.
Mm-hmm.
So, I remember the last one. I think it was a 10-round decision where he should have probably knocked him out in the 6th round, but he couldn't catch him.
Mm-hmm.
I think Liam Wilson. I don't see him ever getting a belt. Liam Paro. Maybe he's just, unfortunately, another one and done, another one-hit wonder in Australian boxing. He pulled off the upset, and then he did nothing with it. So,
yeah. Well,
a bit unfortunate, but if he wins and George wins, then we could potentially have that Aussie fight that we haven't had in a while. So.
Okay. All right, with that being said, take a time out, like the video, subscribe, follow me on Twitter at TstreeT Controversy. The links to all my social media are right down below in the description box. Follow Big J at Old Mate Big J on Twitter. And thanks for watching. Please subscribe. So let's just talk about some quick hits on what's going on in the Australian boxing world. What's going on with the Maloney's? Any word on what's going on over there?
I've heard that Andrew's going to be having a title eliminator shortly, and that would lead him to a title shot at the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Haven't heard anything about what Jason's doing, but I think Jason's going to ride out his career in Japan because that's where he's getting the opportunities and making the money.
Yeah.
So I don't see Andrew will probably fight in Australia again. Jason, there's no point because he'll make 10 times as much money fighting in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Who else? Zarafa and Nikita. What's going on with that? That fight seems like it's been in the making for like 2 years now. Is it just me? Was it last year when it really started picking up?
Yeah, it was last year when it really started picking up. Nikita is rumored to be coming back in August. It'll be around a year since he's fought because he hurt his hand last fight against God, I was there. Colm Zudia.
Mm-hmm.
Zarafa's supposedly going to be on the undercard to that fight. And potentially, because Zarafa said this himself, that he will be fighting Nikita at the end of the year, around November.
Okay, well, that's a good money fight for both of the fighters, and to me personally, it makes like sense, especially for obviously Zarafa, he's lucky to get anything from the Tszyu, to be honest. But I think that's the perfect fight that makes sense. Anybody else we're missing? Any news on anything going on with the girls in boxing?
Not that I've heard of. Jazzy Parr Shannon O'Connell is chasing the rematch of Jazzy Parr. I don't know if that's going to happen because Jazzy Parr had a dreadful fight last fight on that No Limit show where she fought some tiger that she knocked out in about 90 seconds. Desley Robinson, don't know what's going on with her after her.
So pretty much no real news. Oh, also Ebony Bridges, who shocked me and pretty much the boxing world who followed her. She says she is. I've read somewhere she says she's going to be coming back. She's going to take some time and wait for her baby to get established. A baby she had with Kell Brook of all people. I would have never seen that coming. But yeah, she's still in the mix. Anything going on with Shanika? Nothing.
Oh, Jono. No, nothing's going on with.
All right, well, so basically the women's boxing, division in Australia is quiet right now. I'm guessing.
Yeah, it's quiet right now. Oh God, what was her name? I forgot to mention this to you. There was a young lady who did win a WIBA featherweight world title on the Gold Coast a week or so ago.
Okay.
But I cannot remember her name. I think Tanya. I can't remember her
Nah,
name.
don't worry about it. We'll figure it out. For those who don't know, I really don't know how I feel about this next subject because, for one, he's 47 years old and he hasn't looked good in several years, even in his exhibitions. Manny Pacquiao is coming back. He's going to be fighting June the 19th against Mario Barrios. Everyone just seems to want a piece of Mario Barrios' ass, and they think he's the weakest of the 147-pound champions. But nonetheless, politically, I don't understand how Manny Pacquiao, outside of him being Manny Pacquiao, able to come back and just get a title shot. But we're going to get Big J's thoughts on that. But before, let's talk about the co-feature or the chief support, where you have Sebastian Fundora, who dropped his WBO belt and is going to be taking on Tszyu in a rematch. It finally happened. How did this bout come about? I mean, what did you hear? Because there's a lot of stories out there.
Well, basically what I heard is that the rematch court is open and Tszyu lost it.
So it was still out there.
Yeah, that's what we were hearing.
Because there's some people saying, online, basically, like news has been or rumors been circulating around, is it was more like, yo, y'all owe us this. Y'all not going to go, try to fight anybody else and get that big Saudi money, because it was really leaning towards Sebastian Fundora going to a purse bid for Xander Zayas for that WBO, the WBO mandatory. Zayas is going to be fighting somebody else in a few weeks. I forgot who, but it's going to be for the 154-pound WBO title. So, and if it would have went the purse bid, it's heavily implied that the Saudis was just going to win the purse bid or put the money up for the fight. And Samson Lukovic, who he's been involved in some shady practices over the last several years. I don't like the way, he tried to screw Tszyu and his team out of the rematch clause and go straight for the Errol Spence fight, only for Errol Spence to waste their time. And then Fundora ended up losing out on a potential big fight with Terence Crawford. That was actually a thing. Crawford wanted to fight Fundora, and Fundora wanted to fight Crawford. So now Tszyu is, and here's the thing. They're forcing a rematch clause, but Tszyu was only, the WBO, and now I'm guessing, the WBC. So Virgil Ortiz is the interim champion. Tszyu is fighting Sebastian Fundora. Bakram Murtazaliev, we don't know where the hell he is. Last I checked on his social media, he's saying he's trying to find an opponent. Nobody wants to fight him. And it's hard to believe that in this generation, where the Saudis are pretty much, they kind of own the 154-pound division too, in a way, or all the significant fighters they have access to outside of Fundora, that the man can't get a fight, not even from the Saudis. Terence Crawford is the WBA champion in recess. I mean, WBA super champion. And Eunice Tellez is the WBA interim champion. Crawford has flirted with the fact, well, he didn't even flirt with it. And Big J's going to talk about Crawford later on in the video. He said that win or lose against Canelo, he does plan to go back down to 154, which is, if he's able to accomplish it, would be amazing, because usually when fighters go up those large weight gains and come back down, they're usually never the same, and Crawford's almost 40 years old. So, Fundora's gotten better. He's finally, after all these years, he's fighting tall, using his jab. He's a much more disciplined fighter, and even in his last fight, he actually looked like a champion. He looked like he belonged there. So, like that champion's confidence. And as far as Tszyu is concerned, yeah, he looked good in his last fight as well. But those issues going into the rematch with the guy who, split your head open with an elbow, I'm not, I still have some questions about where Tszyu is at mentally going into the ring, despite him stopping the smaller Joey Spencer Jr. What are your thoughts on his rematch?
Well, I like the rematch. It should have happened, bloody
last year,
6 months ago.
Yeah,
it should have happened 6 months ago, back in October. It's the thing I'm the most concerned about is that Fundora's had a full camp for this, or will have a full camp for this fight.
Mm-hmm.
So, and Fundora has changed his dynamic in fighting. That he's finally fighting as a fighter who's 6'5" and not 5'7".
Yeah.
So
he's fighting with distance.
He's fighting with the distance. He's fighting with his jab. And if he can keep Tim off him, he can win a 12-point decision just on his jab alone. All he has to do is jab and keep Tim away from him all night.
Yeah.
So, like he did in the first fight, but mind you, Tim couldn't see for 10 bloody rounds.
Yeah.
So, because he was pissing out blood the entire fucking time. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a completely different fight. If Tim gets on the inside, good night. Tim will crack the living shit out of his
He was doing well until the cut.
Sorry?
He was doing well until the cut. He was hitting Fundora with some big shots to the point, if I remember correctly, it was looking like, he may stop Fundora. He was doing really well with the counterpunching.
Exactly. So if the fight is the same as the first 2 rounds of the first fight, Tim will probably get him within 6-7 rounds.
Yeah, but they're different fighters now, though.
Yeah, if Fundora fights as a 6'5" fighter and keeps Tim off all night, and all he has to do is aim for that bloody scar, which is going to be it's going to be not hard to aim for that cut.
Yeah.
I mean, Fundora has the advantage in this fight to no end. So.
Remember in Tszyu's last fight against Joey Spencer, he had thought he got cut and he rubbed his head. Remember that?
I don't remember that.
Yeah, there was at one point in time, I believe there was I don't know if it was a clash of heads or something happened, but he thought the cut was bleeding again. He touched it with his glove.
I do remember that in the Murtazalia fight, but I don't remember that in the Joey Spencer.
Oh, I'm sorry, Joe didn't Murtazalia fight. My bad. But yeah, there's still that concern there, because you can see the distress in his face. Well, even though it was covered in blood. How he had like a sense of urgency to try to get to Fundora after that cut, especially after it started like really, really gushing all into his face. But, at the end of the day, it's true, like the man couldn't see. So that has to be, that has to be accounted for. But both of these fighters are different fighters than when they fought, what was that? Let me see. Was that last
March 30th?
Last March, yeah. March of 2024. So, Tszyu went out there and got manhandled and dominated and knocked out, stopped brutally by Bakar and Murtazalia. So in this fight, Joey Spencer, he just was out there just to really get beat up on, and Joey Spencer, I don't know what happened to him over the last several years, but he's done. So the problem or the concern I have is he's going in there against the guy that beat him originally. How is he going to fight? Is he going to try to outbox him? Is he going to say, you know what, I'm Tim Tszyu. I planned on beating you before. I was close to beating you before I got cut. I don't see Tim Tszyu as being the type of fighter to be mentally scarred after a loss. But then again, you don't know. You never know.
Yeah, I think that the Joey Spencer fight gave him
the confidence.
His confidence back, put him back on track. But here's the thing. 2 things that people need to realise. A, Australians have a abysmal record in America for world title fights. You can literally count on one hand how many Australian fighters have won world titles in America. George Kambosos Jr., Jeff Deadman Harding, Sky Nicholson. That's it. And
Tszyu lost both of his fights over here.
And
2 of them.
Lionel Rose and Billy Dibb are, for my mind, the only 2 Australians to defend successfully in America. So there's 5 Australian fighters. That's it.
So history is not on his side.
No, and here's the other thing. No Limits world title fight campaign is also abysmal. Tim's, out of the 13, 14 world title fights they've had, Tim's the only one that's won one. That was one fight. That was it. So the history and the stats are not in Tim's favour in this fight. So because No Limit fighters can't seem to get it done, and Australians have an abysmal record overseas for world title fights.
Well, I'm looking forward to the fight because, for one, both of the fighters are much more, how can I say, like disciplined than they were before.
In tuned. I'd say in tuned to each other over this fight. So
so I'm expecting for it to be. I hate to use the term, but a chess match, as they say. Oh, so moving on though. What are your thoughts about this Manny Pacquiao fight?
Yeah. I think it's a bunch of Billy bullshit, but it wouldn't be funny as fuck if Pacquiao won.
I know.
It would be as funny as fuck if Pacquiao won, but I don't think he will because he looked bloody awful against
Ugas.
What was that bloke's?
Yeah.
Sorry?
Ugas.
That's him. He looked bloody awful against him. So.
And he's had a couple of exhibitions that you can watch on YouTube. His last one, last year, it's an exhibition, but he looks, Manny Pacquiao was always speed, dynamic speed, overwhelming you with punches. When Manny Pacquiao, even though he did get better and mature as an overall boxer as he aged, but that's not what he's known for, and also, the power don't go away. That left hand ain't no myth. Like if he hits you with it, you're going and you're going to have some problems. But I just think that, at 47 years old, yes, Mario Barrios is not, one of the best champions. He's not the most talented of champions, but he's a good fighter. And I think he's good enough to beat a 47-year-old Pacquiao. Do I think he's good enough to beat Boots Ennis? No. Do I think he's good enough to beat any other guys at 147? A lot of the other guys at 147? No. But can you imagine if Pacquiao wins? He doesn't plan on retiring. He plans on staying and reigning. So is he going to try to go fight Boots? And this is some old bullshit. Maybe go after Brian Norman Jr., who's going to be fighting the WBO champion, who's going to be fighting over in Japan. But to me, it's madness to me that this is happening. It is what it is. You giving Pacquiao any chance?
Let's be honest, no, because Pacquiao could age a decade overnight.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's going to happen because yes, he might look good on the pads, yes, he might look good in training, but yeah, he can. It's like when Tyson got in the ring with Jake Paul. I know this is a bullshit analogy, but after 2 rounds, Tyson looked bloody awful.
Yeah, and he looked better just, a few years prior against Roy Jones. So that goes to tell you right there how, just 3 years when you're at that age, can do that to you. By the way, Manny Pacquiao is 46. He's going to be 47 in December. But yeah, still, either way.
I mean, Nina Hughes, when she took on Shanika Johnson, prime example, she looked great right up until the first bell, and by round 3, she looked every second of her 42 years of age.
Mm-hmm.
So... I mean, those older fighters, they can just age a decade overnight. So,
Well, that fight's going to be on July the 19th. It's going to be in Vegas in the MGM Grand. I thought they would have been able to get T-Mobile. But here's the undercard. Eastside Cruz versus Ferrero 2. Remember, he got that upset. You got Brenda Figueroa versus Gonzalez. Forgot his first name. Joette. Oh, that's going to be a good fight. All right, we got some good fights on this card. So you got Pacquiao Barrios, Fundora Tszyu 2, Figueroa Gonzalez, Isa Cruz Ferrero 2. So nice solid card. It's going to be on Amazon Prime, likely $79.99 in the States. And of course, Manny Pacquiao's name ring bells. I remember talking to some people about it just a couple of days ago. And they're like, Manny Pacquiao back, he fighting? People don't really care how old he is. It's, they're going to be like, Dak, he's still around. Put it this way, he's going to pull some tickets, and he is a very loyal Filipino crowd, and that's why Tszyu and Fundora is going to benefit from this, because them being a co-feature, whoever wins, either or loses both, their stock is definitely going to, at least in marketability and fan base, is going to increase, especially if it's a good fight. But closing thoughts on Tszyu Fundora?
I'm looking forward to the fight. I think it's going to be a completely different fight from the first one. Advantage, obviously, Fundora. But I think Tim will get the win.
Mm-hmm. So, you think he's going to be on the cards, or you think he's going to be able to stop Fundora?
Sorry?
It's going to be on the cards, or you think he's going to be able to stop Fundora?
Oh, fuck no. If he gets inside of him, cracks his ribs, he'll knock him outside of 6-7 rounds. So, but I'm going to play it safe and say Tszyu win on cards.
Okay. You went to an event. What was that, last week, right? With Terence Crawford in Australia.
Was this? It was only 3 days
a few days ago. Yeah. So how did that come about? I would have never thought that
Well,
of all people, Terence Crawford would be having an event in Australia.
well, a fella I know called Grant Tazzy Brown, who's a former domestic level boxer in Australia. He appeared on one of Anthony Mundine's undercards. I think it was which card was it? Who was the footy bloke that knocked him out in 5 rounds? I can't remember his bloody name now. Garth Wood. I think he appeared on one of those undercards. Boxing personality, well-known promoter in Tasmania, which is the island state to the south of the mainland of Australia. Because obviously they call him Tassie because he's from Tasmania. Prominent figure in Australian boxing media. I think if you watch the video on YouTube, I can't remember what event it was, but he was a bloke that fell off the stage in the Saudi in the background.
Gotcha.
So, Tassie laughed his ass off about it. It was pretty funny. But yeah, he's a prominent figure in Australian boxing journalism. He's got his own podcast, I think it's called Ringside or something like that. Just look up Tazzy Brown on Instagram and it'll take you to his podcast. And basically, he's got the gifts of the gab. I met him at Haney Cambosis number 2. And basically, he just has this unwilling ability just to befriend people. He met Terence, I think, overseas somewhere. They become friends. The next thing you know, he's bringing Terence Crawford out to Australia for a meet and greet event over the country, which lasted, about 6 days. He got into the country, I think, last Sunday.
Yeah, I got some photos of him over there.
Yeah, he went from landed in Sydney, then went to the Gold Coast, did an event on Gold Coast, one in Brisbane, then was, I think, in New South Wales for a day or two, come down to Melbourne, was in Melbourne for a day or two, did the event, did meet and greet at a gym, and then another event, the event that I went to on Thursday night. Then went back to Sydney, and I think he flew out Saturday. So it was a very quick turnaround. So
what was the what was he? Did he talk about anything interesting, or was just a a life interview? Like what is was it all boxing related?
Yeah, it was all boxing related because basically they had the dinner there. Chock was there, Danny Green was there.
Okay.
Zarafa was there.
Was it a good turnout?
Coleman was there. Sorry?
Was it a good turnout? Sold out?
Yeah, not too bad. It was seated for about 300, and there was about 200 people there.
Okay, all right.
Wasn't too bad. They basically sat on a couch on the front of the stage, and basically they just talked for about 20, 30 minutes. How Crawford got started, his first title shot, his career up until now, and how they all think that he's going to go against Canelo. I mean, everyone was saying, I think he's going to do it against Canelo. I disagree. I think Canelo is going to get him. And then he played, had a few games of ping pong against some people just for a bit of fun. You got to take a photo with him, meet him, shake his hand.
Okay.
And it wasn't too bad an event, but. One thing I will say about Crawford is he's not much of a talker.
Yeah, that's always been an issue. You make him mad, he'll talk.
Sorry?
You make him mad, he'll talk. But yeah, that was always an issue, even with his promoter Bob Arum, former promoter.
Yeah, the man is very, very soft-spoken. Sort of mumbles when he talks. Right? Not a big talker. I mean, obviously he's a phenomenal boxer, but he's not a big talker. He doesn't have a lot of charisma. Like, he couldn't cut a promo to save himself. So, and that's a big cornerstone of boxing business is that you got to learn how to cut a promo.
Yeah.
Crawford just can't. I mean, he's extremely nice fella, but on cutting promos,
not the most charismatic dude. But all right, since we are short on time, closing thoughts on everything we talked about.
The name of the young lady, the Australian lady that won that title was Tawana Campbell. I did want to mention her, but she won the WBA sorry, the WIBA featherweight title on the Gold Coast. I think not this weekend, last weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to make sure I mentioned her. Same belt. Amanda Serrano had that belt at one point.
Okay.
So just thought I'd mention that because that WIBA is pretty prominent in Australia. Susie Ramadan, Shannon O'Connell, Shanika Johnson, Diana Prozak, Erin McGow, all those girls, Sharon Amos, all those girls have won a version of that belt in different divisions. So thought I'd throw that out there. Justis, I think Justis will get beat by Wardley if not knocked out. Huni should smash old mate without too many dramas. Paro and Wilson should get through their fights without too many concerns. Tszyu to beat Fundora.
And finally, how you think that Manny Pacquiao going to do against your short prediction on Pacquiao Barrios?
I'd have to go with Barrios because I think Pacquiao's going to age like 10, 15 years overnight.
Yeah.
I'm just going to use common sense here. He hasn't fought in how many years?
2021.
Okay, 4 years. He's 47 years old. I mean, Barrios, didn't Tank knock out Barrios?
And Barrios was winning the fight. Tank needed the KO.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that. That was like, Tank was going like shit, and then didn't he knock him out in like the 7th round or something?
No, it was later. I believe it was around like 11. It was later.
Yeah, but he absolutely planted him. He knocked the fuck out of him.
Yeah.
I remember that. So,
yeah, because it was toward the end of the fight, they was his team was telling him that he was losing, and then after round 8, Tank went out there and put a beating on him. He knocked him down twice in round 8, and then stopped him in round number 11. And going into that 8th round, Barrios was up on the cards.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that. What else? Mix possibly coming back in August, and then possibly fighting Nikita in November. Andrew Maloney's possibly getting a eliminator, and then if he wins out another title shot in November. Jason, don't know what's going on with him. Girls, got nothing. Ebony Bridges, the less said about her, the better. I don't give a flying fuck what she's up to. Who else have we forgotten?
Yeah, that's everybody? That's it. So exactly a 57-minute video. So we're gonna be splitting this video up in.
Hang on. Here's the one thing we've bloody Sonny Bill and fucking.
Oh yeah, how would we forget that? Yeah, give the details and rundown on that.
It's on Stan. I can't remember the date. They had the press conference and Gallen didn't show. So I don't know if I mentioned that to you before.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, Gallen didn't show up. I think it was all pits and winners just to promote the fight.
It's supposed to be July 18th in Ikuto's Bank Arena. We've seen plenty of fights and UFC fights there. Yeah, okay. Any buzz for it? Do people care, or is it going to flop?
From what I've seen on social media, everyone's saying the same thing I am, which is this fight is 10 years too late. Because Gallen's my age, 43. How old's Sonny Bill? He's got to be 37, 38.
I would imagine so. Let me check real quick. Let's see. Sonny Bill is 39.
30, well, shit, he's almost 40.
Yeah, he'll be 40 in August, a few weeks after the fight.
The buzz on social media is that everyone is pissed off that this fight didn't happen 10 years ago when it should have. And I'm not expecting great things out of it. I think it's going to be an awful bloody fight.
Well, me being the boxing degenerate that I am, I'm going to find it somewhere. And I'm going to make sure I'm watching it because people were saying kind of the same thing about the Mark Hunt fight. And that fight ended up being trending worldwide after Sonny Bill got knocked out. But, we
should make an effort to go on that just for shits and giggles.
Yeah, how about that? I'll reach out to them and see, if it's possible. But with that being said, we got to get out of here. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at TstreeT Controversy and Big J at Old Mate Big J, just the letter J. See you guys next week.